Life is a story. And just as with any story, it has a beginning and an end. It has a setting in which it occurs, a particular time, particular place, a particular set of circumstances, giving this story its inextricable, its undetachable context in which it is going to unfold. This story also has a cast of supporting characters, some that are just passing through and some that will be through to the end, some that are friends and some that are foes, some that may start as one and finish as others. This story has pivotal events, some good, some bad, that bring about twists and turns, ups and downs, ins and outs, unforeseen changes that shift the course of the plot forever. And of course, as with any story, this story has a protagonist, a main character, a hero or heroine, around which the whole story revolves, and on which all those events, all those circumstances, and all of those people come to bear. The protagonist, the hero, the heroine, well, that's you. And just as with any story, your life story, whether you want to consider it a tragedy or a comedy, becomes richer with every reflective reading. All those people and all those events, when at the time may seem isolated, irrelevant, or inconsequential, become more meaningful as the story unfolds. As if there is this golden thread that's connecting and tying all that happened together as the story draws nearer and nearer to its conclusion. In other words, it's only in looking back that all that has happened, all that takes place, begins to fit together and make sense. We begin to see the reasons for all of the ups and downs, ins and outs, the twists and turns, but only when we stand back and see it within a much larger scope. Well, all of those facts about this story are more or less easy to determine. But there's still one question that remains. Who is its author? Who or what is it that is writing your story? Is it this setting, all those things that are happening all around us and ever changing? Is it the occurrences in the world that give you this sense, this determination of whether to live in freedom or in fear? Is it forever making you subject and enslaved to forces that are out there and beyond your control? Do you feel at times like a ship that is set adrift, being tossed about by stormy seas, being blown this way and that by the prevailing winds, by the influences that are out there that are influencing you? Do you feel trapped in this particular place and time, wishing that you could rewind your story to a time in the past when things were better, or fast forward your story to a time in which things will be different? Maybe it's one of those characters that with a word or a deed can occupy your thoughts, your feelings, your imagination, because they are living rent-free in your head and in your heart. And is that character a friend or is it a foe? Perhaps it's one of the events in your life. Maybe it's a good event, something that's already happened that you're trying to hold to, something that's about to happen that you're trying to hasten. And when that event happens, well, then everything is going to be okay. Maybe it's a new relationship, a new job, a new school, a new member to the family, a new home. Finally, when that happens, then all things will be settled and I'll be at peace. Or maybe on the flip side of that coin, maybe it's one of the bad events, one of those things that we're trying to forget, something that causes pain or shame, divorce, disease, death, that skeleton that we've tried to shove in the deepest, darkest recess of the closet and forget about it, but we just can't. Is that the thing that confines you and defines you? I know some people believe that they are writing their own story. But if that's the case, we can't see even beyond today. We can't read beyond the current page at which we find ourselves. So how do we know that if we are determining the direction of our story, that it is going to end well, that it is going to conclude happily ever after? We don't know until we get there, and at that time, well, it's a little late. Now, you might be thinking, all right, enough with all the questions, Father. You're obviously trying to get us to the point in which we say, no, God is going to be the author of my story. But not so fast. Who is God for you? Is he a lawgiver or a judge? Is he a tyrant? Is he some distant and indifferent force? And if so, do you really want him authoring your story? Can we trust him? Is he going to hurt or have fun at our expense? If he is the author of our story, or if any of those other things are the author of the story, does that mean that we are no longer free? I have no personal experience with this, but I'm told that a baby changes everything. It changes the story and everything about the story. It gives the protagonist a new identity, and it shifts the center of their focus. A baby demands everything. It demands time and attention. All decisions, all else now needs to be seen in the light of this new life. And all the things that have to be decided have to take it into consideration. Nothing from that point forward will ever be the same. Tonight, that child is born for us, who not only wants to change your story, he wants to become your story. He not only wants to change your future, he wants to redeem your past. And with the birth of this child, we too now can be reborn. And the birthday gift that he gives is life, new life, the fullness of life. All the stories that we've heard, all the stories that we've told ourselves, all those false narratives that we have begun to believe about who we are or what we can become, all of them are silenced tonight. And from this child emerges a new story, a story about an author who is love, an author who crosses over an infinite divide, to enter into that narrative, to enter into your narrative, subjecting himself to all of those events and circumstances and people, subjecting himself to all the frailties and the fragilities and all of the failures. He who is coming in to bring joy into the sorrow, to bring light into the darkness, to bring truth into the lies. He is entering into your story to search for you, to find you, and to draw you closer to himself. And he doesn't come with feats of strength to steal away your freedom, to make you weak and vulnerable before him, because he becomes weak and vulnerable before us. And he invites us to trust him because he has entrusted himself to us, placed himself so helplessly in our hands, begging for us to care for him, to nurture him, to give him time. His story moves from the crib to the cross. These two inextricable points, the most profound expressions of love in all of human history, there to show how far he is willing to go to reach out to you, there to show just how much we mean to him. If this becomes our story, this story that has no end, this story that goes on and on for all of eternity, if we make that story our own, then only then does its happy ending become ours as well.